Welcome back to Athletistry Ballet Evolution, guys. My name is Shane Worthner, and I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking about competitions and the importance of competitions for a successful ballet career. Now, I want to go back to the beginning of my time as a dancer, and I'm going to talk about my experience with competitions, the competitions that I participated in, and then how that affected me as a dancer, and maybe even some of the things where my experiences in those competitions and what happened alongside of those. So if I go all the way back to the beginning, my very first experience with a dance competition, so this was even before ballet competitions, I was doing tap as a young man, and I entered into a regional dance masters competition in California. And the piece that I did, I remember getting up on stage and I don't even think I knew what I was getting myself into. And I just, I did my best and I performed. And I remember afterwards my teacher saying, we couldn't really hear your taps because the floor wasn't mic'd and it was hard to hear. And it kind of had like a target kind of cover on it. So the taps didn't come across very well. And unfortunately my taps were barely heard, but I danced well enough to get a third place in that competition. Now, I didn't go on to dance tap ever in my professional career, but it was something that I did at that point, and I really enjoyed it. So that was a lot of fun. Then the second interaction I had with the ballet competition would have been in the year 2000. I think it was one of the very early YAGP competitions, and it was held at the Kirov Academy, where I was already a student. And I think, at that competition, I think Kirov won School of the Year or something, and then I think most of the places went to Kirov students. I think I did even an excerpt from the pas de trois from Nutcracker, so the male section in that, and that was it. And I'm pretty sure in the lowest category I got second place. So again, I didn't win. I did place, but I didn't win the competition. I remember after that them asking us, "Do you guys want to go to the finals in New York? It's a big deal. There's money to be won." And I just remember saying to myself, "I don't need to compete again." I was perfectly happy with that result. I didn't feel like I needed to go and do anything more. So a couple of years went by, and the next competition was in 2003. Where I had, and I think a lot of kids from Kirov had the opportunity to go and compete in New York. And at that point, I think I was 15, and I said, okay, well, let's give it a try. And I went, and I remember I was doing La Fille Gardée, male variation. Then I had a solo that had been choreographed for me by a choreographer of the name Vladimir Anglov. And it was a really nice kind of tango piece. It was very soulful, and I really enjoyed dancing it. And so the first piece I did was the classical piece, and I remember I feel like at that point I was pretty happy with what I did. And then I get to the last part, I go for my double pirouette or triple pirouette, and I fall right on my butt, right in the front, like center stage, right at the front of the stage. And I can't even remember what score I got, but I remember thinking to myself, oh, that was not good. I don't really want to do that again. And then I went and I did my contemporary, because I did get through to the next round. I did my contemporary solo, and one of the judges gave me a perfect score. We got to see our score sheets, and I remember thinking to myself for the next round, oh, I think I should do my contemporary again, because we got to choose at that point. So it was an option. You could either do your classical, a different classical, or your contemporary one more time. And so I decided to do my contemporary again. And I remember being told afterwards that they were not going to be putting me through to the finals, because this is a classical ballet competition, and you did a contemporary solo, so we can't put you through. Now, I don't know if that's the reason. I don't know if maybe my scores weren't high enough. You never know in these situations. And realistically, had it been a different set of judges on a different day, maybe the responses would have been different. But that was what ended up happening. So I remember that being a big kind of deciding factor in my mind. Is like, oh, I don't need to do this again. I don't need to do competitions to feel good about myself. as a dancer. I enjoy the work. I enjoy being in the studio. I enjoy working on solos, but I don't need to go and put them on stage and do lots of pirouettes and, try, because I wasn't a trick dancer. I didn't feel the need to do tricks. And so I stayed away from competitions for a while. And then at the end of that year, I ended up getting a scholarship at Kirov, a very special kind of like honorary scholarship in honor of Nikolai Morozov, who was an incredible teacher. He passed away my second year at the school, and they created this honorary scholarship in his name. And the scholarship traditionally had been used as a way to fund kids to go to Prix de Lausanne. And so at the time, I won the scholarship, and they said to me, well, would you like to go to Prix de Lausanne? We'll send you over to Switzerland to learn some pieces, and then you'll also get to go to the competition. And I had watched other dancers preparing for it and learning the solos off of videos and thinking to myself, oh my God, this is not my cup of tea. Like, I'm not a competitive dancer. I don't feel like I would do well. And so I very politely declined. I was very grateful for the scholarship, but I declined. And I don't feel bad about that. Like, I think at this point in my training, I was not a competitive dancer. Like I said, it was not something that I felt like I needed to be doing. So it ended up, I think they ended up sending another dancer from the school, and this other dancer ended up doing lots of competitions and being very successful. And I remember towards the end of my time at Kirov, there was this one last competition opportunity, which was the Helsinki International Ballet Competition. And we went all in on this one. So the international ballet competitions are very, or at the time, were a very unique type of competition. People used to call them like the Olympics of ballet. And you had two age categories. One was 15 to 18, and the other was like 18 to 26. So it was like a junior and a senior category. And I was still in the junior category. But everybody had to do 2 classical solos, 2 contemporary solos. And then if you got into the final round, you had to do another 2 classical solos and a contemporary. I think you had to have 2 contemporary and 4 classical. So it was a huge competition. It spanned across 2 weeks. And I remember preparing for this, working on all these solos and getting myself ready. It was an amazing process because I had also at that point already been offered a contract. So my contract offers all came from masterclass opportunities. They came from situations where I was being seen by directors or being seen by decision makers in the industry who were looking for dancers at that time. And it wasn't through competitions that I got offers. In fact, I never got an offer through a competition. All of my offers came from either the Kennedy Center Masterclass Series, which was an amazing opportunity at that time. I don't know if they still do it. And then also from going over to Vienna and auditioning. So I already had an offer from the Vienna State Opera. I had signed my contract. This was like a last, let's just throw everything to the wind and see what we can do. So I went to the competition. I made it through the first round, made it into the, I guess the semifinals. And then the finals, I was cut. And I remember sitting with my teacher and the representative from the competition who would kind of go through the results from the judges. And I remember the discussion being something along the lines of, well, you already have a contract. You didn't need to win. We could only really put through one of the kids from the school. So it's not going to be you. It'll be this other boy. And again, this was the discussion, whether that was the truth or whether that was just them letting us down easy and maybe we just weren't good enough to make it through, which is very possible. There were some incredibly talented dancers that year in 2005. So, but my point is that after that, I went over to Vienna. I started my career. I saw very quickly that it wasn't about, how many turns you could do or how high your legs were, because the majority of the things you do as you're starting out in a company is standing and holding a stick and standing in line and making sure you're in time with everybody else, and learning how to do character dances. And quarter ballet work is incredibly grueling. It takes a lot of patience. It's long hours. And it's working together as a team. It's not competing against one another. It's working with your colleagues to put on the best performance possible, which is very much different to the culture that is brought up in the competition space. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't have a problem with competitions as such. I think they do provide an amazing opportunity, especially if you're being seen by people in the industry who have the power to make decisions about a career. Whether they choose you or not in that moment is irrelevant, because they may see you later, or you may meet someone at the competition who later on becomes a choreographer, and you've become friends over the years because you kept in touch from that competition. Everyone that you meet and everyone that you interact with is a potential future colleague at a competition. And that's an amazing opportunity to be able to meet and interact and work with those people from a very young age. So I think competitions can be very valuable. I also think that if we put too much stock into the competition as being the only way to become a professional dancer, that we're missing out on an opportunity to say, well, it's not just about that. It's about learning how to do the things that you need to be able to do to dance in a company. And those things are musicality, dynamics, understanding how to coordinate your movement, being able to do that with ease and fluidity, so that when you do get into a company, you're ready to stand in that line and take on those things and prove yourself in and amongst artists who have been doing it for many, many years. And many of those artists themselves may have competed at some point, but very few of them have ever won a competition, right? Like, you're going to have a small number of people that have actually gone and when I say win, I mean first place, like first place Grand Prix, taken the top prize at a competition, and that has been the fuel for their career, right? So making sure that we understand that it's not just about the competition in looking towards creating a professional ballet career. Now, we also have to think about, okay, so now we're getting into working with young people, and especially young artistic people. When we have an artistic soul and they are laying their soul on the line in a performance, and they're giving everything that they possibly can in that performance, and then the judgment is that they're not good enough, that can be very, very challenging for that child to hear. And because of the way that the industry has portrayed itself, it can actually in some ways be damaging, because it makes that child think, oh, well, here I've gone out and I've given everything to this performance, and this performance has not returned a reward that I was told I'm going to need in order to have a career, to be able to present my art and my being to society. I guess I'm not good enough. And then maybe we lose that artist. Maybe that artist decides to leave dance altogether at an extreme place. Other potentials are they look at the people around them, and they see different developments physically. They see younger other dancers who maybe have a thinner body or a stronger body, and they think to themselves, oh, I need to do that. I need to change myself. And so we're creating this environment of it being about not presenting your best self, but presenting some idealized image of what someone else might be. And in reality, that's not art. You know, art is taking your ideas and your interpretations and your values and putting them out for people to see and to be involved with and to connect with. And if you're always copying and always imitating and always trying to be something that you're not, then there's always going to be a lack of authenticity in your presentation. And if we value that lack of authenticity, because we think, oh, well, in order to have a winning person, they have to have a certain body composition, and they have to look a certain way, a certain hair color, a certain leg line, a certain quality that is expected of a certain variation, then we're not developing art. We're developing copies. We're developing people who do what we expect of that artistic presentation. And that, I think, is a hindrance potentially to the future of dance. Now, I also want to talk about this idea that when we are constantly taking excerpts out of longer form ballets and only working on the variations, we're missing an opportunity to deliver to our young dancers the history that goes with the ballet. Because the majority of the production is not actually the solos and the pas de deux. The majority of the production are the group dances and standing in line and creating formations. It's telling a story. And when you just take a solo out of context, there's only so much of that story that you can tell effectively, because realistically, a lot of it gets lost in the pursuit of better technique. And so we do need to be careful with the continuous push to reduce ballet to variation or repertoire excerpts, where in reality, I almost feel like if we are going to create a competition that values the art of ballet, that really what we should be doing is taking longer production pieces, so maybe 20, 30-minute production pieces with multiple dancers together. Maybe you do a longer excerpt from the first act of Giselle, or maybe you do a piece from Swan Lake, and then it's these groups of dancers presenting their interpretations of classical work, or even then contemporary work, if you wanted to go into a contemporary sense, and that would then be presented to companies and directors and choreographers, and these people would see, oh, look at these young dancers and how they're presenting themselves in this group. I can see that dancer as someone that I would want in my company. And they're looking at everyone as a group, but maybe there's someone that stands out. And you have the names and the pictures of all the people, obviously, that are there. And the competitions then are there as a way to learn, as a way to interact, as a way to create that possible network, but you're putting multiple people on stage. And I know that there are competitions that have groups. And sure, we can still do solos and whatnot, but I think what makes ballet so beautiful is the entire production of ballet, from the moment you walk into the opera house to when you take your seats, to listening to the orchestra tuning their instruments as that fills the space and the lights come down, to when the curtain opens, all the way through the production until the curtain closes, and you leave and you go to the stage door and you meet the artists as they come out. It's an entire experience. And we miss that when it's just, oh, let's see, how many people can we have do Kitri in the next 4 hours? How many people can we have do Medora in the next 3 hours? How many people can do triple tour or triple cabriole? And that reduces it to elements instead of it being really about the artistic presentation, which I think we lose some of the art of ballet in doing that. And so that's one thought process. And then I had this other remembrance recently about a competition that used to run in New York, the New York International Ballet Competition, where the dancers would arrive at the competition, and I don't know, I can't remember if they arrived with partners or if they were partnered when they got there. But basically, they learned what they were going to compete with at the competition. So it was kind of like it leveled the playing field. So you didn't have months and months and months to prepare repertoire, and you weren't working on it over and over and over again. You showed up, you learned, and then everyone was kind of on that same place. And it was really just a presentation of how well you could interpret, how well you could take on coaching, how well you could present work that had been created in that moment. And I think that was a very interesting way to do it, and could be a fantastic opportunity to create a new competition again if someone's looking to do that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on competitions. I think at the end of the day, we need to be telling our young dancers that even if they're not winning competitions, that there is a value to them. There is something worthwhile to going to the competition, meeting people, meeting their peers, seeing what else is out there, being seen by people who are important in the industry. All of the lead up to a competition where you are working on and preparing new variations and repertoire is very important, absolutely, because you're going to be rehearsing and preparing things for the rest of your life as a dancer. That being said, we also need to tell our young dancers that the reward at the end is not the gold medal. It's the fact that they did that work, they met the people, they were seen, and they had that experience. The reward is the process, not the prize. And there you have it. That's my thoughts on competition. So hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm going to continue to release these podcasts as inspiration comes to me. If you've enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you have any thoughts on this as well, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Keep it friendly, guys. And I'll see you on the next episode. Have a good one. See you guys.